Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today I'm going to take a second introspective look into the writing and character developments that went into Season 1, the one episode that hurt me the most. When I first published my review of the Season 1 episode Alpha Leader, I am afraid I might have upset the show creator Dan Milano a little bit. He had just started watching my videos, much to my surprise, and this was the first harsh review I had given of the series. Harsh, in a way. Anyway, he expressed some concern on the comments, and we had a great discussion about it. You can go take a look at that if you want. It was a nice conversation, and I'll put a card up so you can click back to it. In my last video, I went into how the show built up a parallel between Mitch and Five's character development. The show establishes Five's growth as a glitch tech and his budding skill. The episode also showed off Mitch's heroic qualities as well. It showed that Mitch was a courageous leader and a good team leader. It showed that Mitch's team trusted him. It also showed that Mitch was at least starting to earn back his place of esteem in Five's mind. Now this is very interesting. The first episode made a point of utterly destroying Five's blind hero worship of Mitch, and even when it replaced it with a germ of mutual respect as gamers, Five was still jaded and resentful of Mitch's actions, believing that Mitch had stolen, rightly or wrongly, had stolen his win from him. This episode not only shows that Five has forgiven Mitch, but that Five is looking up to Mitch for approval. Given that Mitch would not have sought this out, would even have sabotaged it if he'd noticed it, the clear conclusion is that in the time they have spent together as glitch techs, Mitch's inherent virtues have impressed Five enough to earn him not his old place of hero worship back, but a new, more honest place of respect in Five's esteem. Now, as I mentioned in my previous videos, much of the fandom seems to think that Mitch was deliberately sabotaging Five as an alpha leader. However, that is hardly consistent with Mitch's behavior overall. Mitch has never shown that he would deliberately harm a fellow glitch tech and has even gone out of his way to avoid causing Me-K.O and Five problems, despite wild provocation on their parts. Look at the Smash-Azores episode, for example. Simple duty, not any resentment, would have demanded Mitch turn them in for their disregard of protocol that nearly got Five and Casino killed and almost smothered Mitch. But in the end, Mitch himself broke protocol in order to protect Five and Me-K.O. No, Mitch was doing his best as a good leader here to do the best for his team, and that involved giving the best advice he could to Five. So Mitch did, and bungled it so badly it hurt. Well, at least it hurt me. See, what Mitch told Five was to project confidence. Advice Five sorely needed. However, Five took Mitch's advice to be confident and to follow Mitch's example as meaning you should be inflexible and don't listen to your team. When Five simply projected confidence, the mission was actually going fairly well. But by not listening to his team, Five bungled hard and endangered himself and everyone around him. This was Five's self-afflicted fall, and I sympathized with it terribly. I, like Five, am not a natural leader, but somehow end up in leadership positions where my decisions have consequences. I too have tried to fake it till I made it by projecting confidence, failed to listen to my underlings, and suffered for it. That is why I writhed so hard while I watched this episode. However, Mitch made a mistake here too. All things considered, a much worse mistake. Mitch was the more experienced glitch tech. The mere fact that Me-K.O and Five were running backup on the last mission for the team shows that Mitch accepted the role of mentor to Me-K.O and Five. He isn't a kind or gentle teacher, but he is still their teacher by his own choice and by their acceptance. He is the kind of teacher who leads by example and short, harsh instructions, and who only doles out praise when his students come up to his exacting standards. Again, the advice he gave to Five wasn't inherently wrong. Five did in fact lack the confidence that a leader should have, and that would have damaged the effectiveness of the team. And again, while Five just stuck to projecting confidence, the team worked well and the mission went well. Had Five projected his nervousness and just let the team do their thing, Me-K.O would have gone wild card like she does, and Zara and Anish would have been stuck in a command deadlock when any decisions were needed. The problem started when Fives didn't listen to his team, and that is not Mitch's fault. Mitch, a lead-by-example teacher, had demonstrated that a leader should pay attention to the feedback his team gives by his own example. But Mitch had failed to state this explicitly to Five. After all, to Mitch it was blindingly obvious. What sort of idiot would take people onto his team and then not listen to them? Then Mitch, perfectionist, Mitch who thinks there's one right way to do things, gives Five free access to all of his personal stuff to give Five the best boost he can. Then Mitch glides away with a suspicious grin, or possibly a grimace on his face. Now, this mistake, this bad teaching, was entirely Mitch's error. It is a serious flaw that is perfectly in character with what we have seen of Mitch so far. Just like 5, Mitch was nervous and stressed, possibly even more so than 5. After all, Mitch had just been freaking out about possibly dying, and there is no way that that inherent example of unuseful useful tech, was really able to calm Mitch down from the scare he'd given from the virus in just a few minutes between shots in the show. So, Mitch is facing what he thinks might be death. He's in quarantine, completely separated from any human contact. And he is facing what is at least a very serious illness. And yet Mitch still takes the time to mentor 5. That handily explains the odd smile on Mitch's face as he slinks off. Mitch was terrified, but was putting on a brave face for 5. He was literally practicing what he was preaching in real time. Project confidence. Don't let your team see your fear. This was a show of personal courage and true leadership still. So where did the mistake come in? The mistake came with Mitch's lack of empathy, a very common trait in highly competent and highly disagreeable people. Mitch couldn't imagine not understanding the fine balance a leader has to make between bluster and confidence and listening to feedback. It was something that Mitch learned long ago. In all probability, Mitch learned it by observing older glitch techs in actions. So even if he had thought about 5's need to understand a concept that Mitch had never needed to explain to him, Mitch would have thought that 5 would have picked it up the same way he did, by watching his superiors. And 5 and the rest of the team suffered for Mitch's mistake that came from his lack of empathy. I cannot tell you how that burned my feels. I have been there. I have been in charge of fresh-faced blueberries and have given them incomplete advice that my lack of empathy, my lack of ability to see things from their perspective, made downright dangerous. Sometimes the consequences were funny. Sometimes the consequences were humiliating for everybody involved. But oh, I have been there. So this classic hubris episode, this episode as old as the Tales of Hercules, hit with a double whammy. Whether you've been in 5's place as someone who has completely misunderstood your instructions and through your own misunderstanding caused a bunch of trouble, or whether you've been in Mitch's place, a teacher who gave incomplete instructions and through your lack of empathy caused a bunch of trouble, or places, you are going to feel their fall in a deep place that you don't want to think about. And that, my wonderful viewers, is why I absolutely hated the episode Alpha Leader, why I'm never going to watch it again if I can help it at all. And even as I admire this episode as a near perfect example of a hubris episode, they did that double storytelling thing where you focus on one story, but behind the scenes there's a B story that is adding to and emphasizing the A story. Usually you have a B story and an A story and they're unconnected. 2 different teams doing 2 different things. But in this case, the show writers wrote the A story of 5's hubris in conjunction with the B story of Mitch's consequences. And oddly, the consequences for both of their acts of hubris were the same. The near failure of Team Mitch to be able to take out the multi-glitch. And Mitch is on screen for very little time, just a little at the beginning and a little at the end. And yet, just by tying these ends together, the show writers have created an excellent episode that I suggest anyone would watch, just not me, and that is very well written and well formatted. So, when this video is uploaded, we will have less than 24 hours to wait and see if Dan and company have stuck the landing with Season 2 or Season 1B, depending on how you want to think about it. And oh, we're all excited. I've looked at a few of the images. I'm still resisting watching the trailer because I don't want any spoilers. But we know that Mitch is going to undergo a major haircut when nobody else does, which, as I pointed out in my previous video, is an indicator of a major character change or a change in perception of the character. And there's going to be a new glitch tech added, and I think Ridley's her name. She looks like she's going to be a fun one, and it looks like there's going to be more town-shaking events in Bailey. So, leave a like below if you agree with my analysis, and leave a comment blasting my analysis like a knockoff Cthulhu if you disagree. Hit that subscribe button and check my Teespring store for some weird human merch. Peace out, my wonderful viewers.